You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck. We've made difficult decisions.
And there are still more ahead of us.
2 people aren't enough to save the galaxy.
We need the toughest,
Smartest.
deadliest allies.
We need you.
We need you to join us.
And listen to Reignite.
A certain point of view podcast about storytelling.
Love.
And Mass Effect.
Join us every other Thursday as we fight for the fate of an entire galaxy.
You can find us everywhere you get your podcasts.
Or at certainpov.com/reignite.
We're counting on you.
We should go.
Welcome back for another issue of Imagine If. This week we are going to jump onto that spinner rack and see what is new for New Comic Book Day, talk about a little bit of comic book news, break down the newest Shang-Chi trailer and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The new Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer. And then we are going to get into our 101 for Natasha Romanova, or Romanoff, or one of the many other names that the character has gone by during her time in the MCU or the Marvel Comics. All to kick off our Black Widow month, which we are going to be doing Black Widow stories and Black Widow 101s to celebrate the return of the MCU in the movie theater. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yes, because somewhere in the multiverse, there's a version of us that has already watched this film. And in our Earth 19, maybe that's what we call it. No, Earth 20. No, Earth 19. There we go. We sadly were held back, but yes, it's almost here. It's almost here. So we thought it'd be fun to do like some of the like the publishers used to do back in the day, character themed months. And what a great way to celebrate with you and ourselves as we gear up for Black Widow. So put on your stingers and let's get ready.
All right. So first, as always, we're going to jump into that spinner rack and what is new on New Comic Book Day, Chris.
All right, so this Tuesday from DC Comics, we have Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries Extravaganza #1. That's right, if you're tired about what Batman does or doesn't do for Catwoman, you can still keep comic books for kids and let him enjoy some fun adventures with the Scooby-Doo gang. Speaking of Catwoman Annual 2021 #1 will be out. So Ram V's new series will be taking it a step further, and we will see some of the mystery that's going on. And if I'm looking at this cover correctly, I think Selina is going to be going up against, I'm not sure if that's the Scarecrow or not, but I know he's going to be having some major ramifications going on because they're going to be playing with the idea of, so it was called Future State. So this time it's going to be called Fear State. So there might be something there, but nope, I'm completely wrong. This actually might be an interest to you, Mitch. She's going to be facing off against Father Valley.
Any relation to Mark Paul Valley?
Yeah, exactly. Bear witness to Father Valley's past with the Order of Saint Dumas and his unexpected connection with Azrael to learn the method of his madness.
Ooh, interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So here's a bigger look for you, Mitch, of the character. And I didn't even catch that now that I've got a better focus of the cover. If you look on the background there on the stained glass, it's the Asbats.
That's true. There's the Asbat suit. Or a person in the suit in that stained glass window. So, yeah, we got an interesting new character here.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've ever actually, at least my brain cells remember, but what did you think of the Asbat suit? Like when you first saw it, because I imagine, like, did you read Sword of Azrael as it came out, or was it kind of more like you came into the character afterwards?
I definitely came into the character afterwards. Like I remember in the Return of Superman when he goes to Gotham, and that's the first time I ever saw the Asbat suit because Superman goes to Gotham, he talks to the Batman, and then you can see the little thought bubbles of like, I don't think he realizes I'm not Bruce, like kind of thing. So there was that, and then it was later on when I became obsessed, I guess, with the Azrael character. I went and bought myself a trade of the Sword of Azrael. Got to learn more about the character.
Okay, so what did you like? Do you like the Azbat design?
I do. I mean, it's very 90s. It's all power suit and techno organic. I don't know how you want to say it, but it's all like cyberpunkish kind of, and it's different. Would I would want to keep it that way? No, absolutely not. But like I thought it was okay for what it was, and it definitely gives it that edgy look that they were going for to differentiate him from regular Batman. Yeah,
I remember. It was funny. I did not know anything about Azrael. I caught on to Nightfall pretty early, and they basically, I mean, in the comics, he just looked like a blonde-haired Bruce Wayne. I'm like, who is this dude? And then he's taking over as Batman, and he's slowly starting to add the technology to the Batman costume, and it was something else. So I mean, I love the design. I think it's great looking. I need to put it next to, my other legions of 90s costumes, the Armored Daredevil and Ben Reilly Spider-Man. I think it's young enough that I could sneak Electro Soups in there. There's a fondness in my heart for those, and I've always enjoyed it. I think it's a beautiful looking design. It's a great looking action figure when people produce it. But yeah, so I just was always curious because I will admit, Nightfall did not make me a fan of Azrael.
No.
I thought he was a jerk. But that's what we, the bad fans, were supposed to think, which is so wrong because he is a good character. He's got his moments.
He definitely has his moments, and his book after that point, during the Agent of the Bat run, that's where I fell in love with the character.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Speaking of characters Mitch loves, it is the 80th anniversary of the goatee, Green Arrow. That's right. 80 years of Ollie. So we are going to be getting a 100-page super spectacular. We will have cover variants featuring all the decades. So if you know your alphabet, this will be going all the way to the letter, I believe, I.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to be getting a lot of stuff there. Yes, cover I. So they'll take us to the 2010s. It's awesome. I think it's great that, I'm really glad, I guess, let me phrase it this way. Let me get my thoughts in order. I'm glad that Green Arrow's golden age is being recognized again. There was a little hint a couple weeks, or not a little hint, a very big hint. Jeff Johns fixed Ollie in a way. So over in the Stargirl Spring Break Spectacular, they addressed the fact because everybody wants the Seven Soldiers of Victory to start being a thing again. And Green Arrow and Speedy were part of that. But Green Arrow and Speedy are basically more recognized as Silver Agent Up characters. So you can't really have them be in their golden age. Now, the costumes did survive. The classic Robin Hood with red gloves. It did survive. But so anyways, Jeff Johns just made it simple. He's like, oh yeah, there was a time where Ollie got time swept back into the golden age. So that's how he's able to be the Silver Age character who went back in time and then got blown forward on the great adventure of the Seven Soldiers of Victory. So
of course,
and, now he's all over the place. Let's see here. We've got quite a few variants. If I remember correctly, I think you said you liked was it the 90s variant cover, the one that has Connor in the lead there?
I do like that one.
Yeah, so that one's a great one. Let's see here. That is Howard Porter art. So he's very influential on us. He was the main artist of Grant Morrison's JLA.
Yep.
And again, right there, and I think what I love about that cover too as well is the fact that even though Green Arrow is a thing, he's now starting to be more of a family because, Dinah's back and she's going to start growing her own legacy, and the Birds of Prey is going to start happening. Roy has now become Arsenal, and he's doing his things with the Titans, and then eventually he's going to lead up to the Outsiders. And then we have the son of Green Arrow, Connor Hawke, which was quite a major revelation in things to come. So any thoughts on those characters?
I mean, this is the fact that you bring up Howard Porter and then Grant Morrison's JLA. That's where I found my love for the Green Arrow. Like that, Connor Hawke was my introduction on that team, because he was on the team as Green Arrow, or at least an honorary member. Then going in, picking up Green Arrow comics from that point was following around Connor Hawke as he tried to live up to his father's legacy and, live in the shadow of, I guess. But then eventually we get to Kevin Smith's resurrection of Oliver Queen, and it made me love Oliver Queen too. So very much enjoying that cover right there.
Yeah, and what's neat following your quick history there. So then the next cover would be the 2000s cover, and this is by Jen Bartel. But Jen Bartel does such a great job of channeling Phil Hester's art.
Yes,
because Phil Hester and Kevin Smith, I think that's how DC managed to get Kevin Smith to come over. They're like, hey, do you want to bring Green Arrow back? And he's like, sure, I'll do some wicked crazy stuff. Thank God he finished the arc, which was awesome. But yeah, Kevin and Phil Hester, they came aboard, and sure enough, they brought back the classic Ollie Queen. Yeah, I remember picking that series up, and I thought it was great to have him back. Hal Jordan Spector made some appearances there, so that made me even more happy.
Yep.
God, what a time to be alive. Then even the 2010s variant has a nice design to it, because I really got to say, the new 52 Green Arrow costume, I like it. There's elements there that break it up. I think they're pretty neat. We do get his sister. Is it Kimiko? Is that her name, or Kimiko?
Kimiko,
okay.
Yeah.
So we get his, because that is his sister, right?
Yes.
Same father, same mother. How does that work?
Father.
Same father? Okay.
Because her mother is Lady Shiva.
Oh, interesting twist.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, so that's the new dynamic, and that was one of those things that's kind of a bummer about the.
Wait, is that right? Am I thinking of not Kate Kane, Cassandra Kane, which was her mother also Lady Shiva?
I thought her dad was the big bad. Like,
her dad
her dad
was
something Kane, the master of the assassins or something like that.
Yeah, but I thought that they both, like, her mother was also League of Shadows.
Huh? Maybe
I'm gonna go look it up. You keep talking.
All right, I'll create some filler. But the new 52 era was it was great, but it was sad because I felt like we lost a lot. And like we were mentioning in the 90s cover, there was a lot of growth in the Green Arrow legacy and family. And unfortunately, Connor Hawke was one of the casualties of that era. But Black Canary and Ollie managed to still grow. There's a lot of beautiful covers. There's some stuff that goes back. We have the 1980s cover that takes us back to Mike Grell style for the Longbow Hunters. We have in the 1970s cover Derek Chu giving us a very 70s looking Ollie and Dinah. Then we have the 1960s cover by Neil Adams. So he's bringing us back to the Hard Traveling Heroes. This one is interesting. The 1950s cover where we have a giant Ollie scaling a building a la King Kong style. So that's right. Everybody was not a great time, or everybody got some 1950s in them where it was just, what the hell is going on? So yeah, even Ollie couldn't escape the weird, wild adventures. I do like the Mike Cho cover. The 1940s, very clean, and I love the fact that he is doing a showcase of all the trick arrows. That's always fun, because I think it was somewhere, maybe it was JLA Incarnations or JLA or one or something, and I love the fact that they're talking with Ollie, and he's like, yeah, I've got a nuclear arrow, and everybody's like, you have a nuclear bomb sitting in your quiver on your back? What the heck's wrong with you? So I thought that was pretty fun. But it is great to see all these artists come out and celebrate the legacy of Green Arrow. Dan Mora will get the classic cover, the main one, and that one to me is my favorite, though, because we have everybody. We see Roy, Connor, Mia, Ina, Mikio. God, I already forgot the name. His sister, and then Ollie himself.
Emiko.
So, wait, one more time. Chemico or
Emiko.
Emiko. Okay, Emiko. So yeah, so we get the whole family there. I think, I don't think anybody's missing, so that's really awesome. So I'm glad to see that everything is growing. I just hope that the gift Tom Taylor gave of renaming the Arrow Cave the Quiver, I hope that sticks around. So that would be fantastic. Let's see. Moving along a little bit, though. Infinite Frontier Secret Files #1 will be out this week. So last week, Infinite Frontier #1 is out. So if you want to get on the next big thing, Infinite Frontier is the next big thing as far as the DC universe is concerned. There is a major revelation about Roy Harper, a.k.a. Speedy, in that issue as well, so definitely check it out. I'm excited about Infinite Frontier. I am very curious to see what it's going to do. I think for those of us that are Darkseid fans, I think this is going to be an epic in his belt to help notch him up as a bad guy again.
Okay.
Okay, what you got?
So I was wrong. Lady Shiva is Cassandra Cain's mother. Shadow is Emiko's mother. So the other assassin lady from the League of Shadows. If I remember correctly, I believe she was part of the League of Shadows, right? Am I just completely wrong about Shadow altogether?
I have no clue who Shadow is, so whatever you got is working for me.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Black Mountain, Ninth Circle, Outsiders, and formerly Team Arrow. So nope, no League of Shadows either. I am just completely wrong on my Shadow character altogether. But she has been a big part of Green Arrow comics since 2013, Volume 5, issue number 22.
Okay, so yeah, that's definitely some New 52, and I think my only experience with Ollie in New 52 was just when he came over to JLA for a bit. So a lot of learning there for me as well. Well, let's see here. Okay, so moving along. Teen Titans Academy Yearbook 2021. So this is kind of fun. I think this will be kind of a play on the idea of the Secret Files and Origins books. So we get to take a sneak peek inside the Teen Titans Academy, get a little bit more dirt on these new characters and discover who they are. And if you'll notice on both covers, the X is being drawn a la Red X style. Something major happened. I don't know if we want to talk about it because it could be spoilerific, but at the same time, it could be wrong. So there's a working theory that we might know who Red X is. So what do you think, Mitch? Should we open that up or should we leave it?
I think, do you think 2 minutes is enough time to talk about it, or do you need a little bit more?
Oh, I can do it less than 2. We can definitely, because the shock value is where it's at.
All right, go ahead and give me let's give them 2 minutes. You can go ahead and we can talk about it. You can reveal it, and then I can react to it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But 2 minutes, if you want to hear the possible spoiler, skip ahead 2 minutes right now.
Yep. All right. So the secret identity of Red X could be Billy Batson.
What?
That's right. He went evil.
Billy
Right?
Batson? How does that even work? Billy Batson can't fight.
Well, okay, so that's the big curiosity. What's going on with Billy? Why? I mean, first off, why is he not calling on the power of Shazam? But if you think about it, some of the stuff, and again, DC's not necessarily as cohesive or linear as it could be, but if we do look at the current state of the DC universe, where is Shazam? So it could work out that maybe Billy has fine-tuned his abilities and for some reason he's going evil, or maybe some other new power has offered him abilities in exchange for his hosting.
So wait,
so that is interesting.
Is the Jeff Johns and Eaglesham book not going anymore?
Oh yeah, no, that ended. Yeah, that ended a bit ago.
Okay, it shows you how much I've not stayed up to date, even though we do this every week. So what happened at the end of that book? Is he not around? So it was just
pretty much. Dead? It was just kind of one of those, I guess, and it even kind of like something happened in DC Comics. because it was like, I think it's basically an 8-parter, but if you sit down and read it, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then jump to issues 9 and 10 because they had like some filler or something like that. Basically, they let Jeff Johns come in. He creates the 7 magical lands of wonder and reunites Billy with his dad, and his dad basically acts like his mom from the movie. So that's the deadbeat parent. So either way, Billy is just doomed to having horrible parents, which is a bummer because the Batsons used to be respectable, but in this new era of comics, we have to have douchiness. So yeah, that's what happens there. So maybe some of that douchiness is rubbing off on Billy, and that's why he's like, "Hey, dude, I gotta be evil." There you go.
There you go. So Mephisto from Marvel is now the new Red X. Got it. Cool.
Yep. You heard it here first.
All right. Going forward?
Yeah, going forward. All right. So now to collected editions. So if you'd like to see the adventures of the next Batman, it will all be collected in Batman by John Ridley, the deluxe edition hardcover. So if you want to get the shakedown on Mr. Fox's son, who he is and how he came to be Batman, his origins start here. Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn will be collected in a hardcover edition. So if you are enjoying the world that Sheen Murphy has created, definitely check it out. This is a huge book for me that I'm going to be excited for. Flash by Mark Waid, Book 8. This is the tail end of Mark Waid's adventures on the Flash books. So this was when they created the Dark Flash. I just remember this character showing up after the events of Chain Lightning. It was a big mystery. Who is he? You know, it's definitely a bloody shade of crimson draped in some silver with the blue tail ends. And it was like, oh, this is cool. I had it in my mind that it was going to be Barry Allen. I thought, hey, you know, maybe this is going to be the big part, you know, because I don't think, Hal was back as Spectre, I believe. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe they're finding ways to bring these Silver Age characters back. But nope, it turns out that the Dark Flash is a alternate version of Wally West. So he's a little bit meaner and whatnot. He
Walter,
did make
right?
his appearances. Go ahead.
He was Walter West, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's how you know he's eviler. He's got the adult version of his name. No goatees though, but adult version of name. So if Mitchell ever comes around, I know something's afoul here.
There you go.
But this is just a great one. It wrapped up all the adventures of Mark Waid. And this is a fond era because it was the Flash family. So a lot of great stuff there. So I think it's money well spent if you collect the Flash by Mark Waid series of trades. They're beautiful. But definitely do some shopping because they are going to be pretty pricey. And some of them might even be out of print. But definitely volumes 7 and 8, you will not regret that purchase. Future State Superman will be getting a trade paperback collected edition. So this sets the tone for what the Superbooks could be becoming under the pen of Philip Kennedy Smith. And if you want some fun adventures of Johnny Constantine, then definitely check out The Mystery of the Meanest Teacher, and then get ready for Suicide Casualties of War. This is going to be a reprint collection of some 80s, 90s era adventures by Keith Giffen of the Suicide Squad.
Wait.
So the majority of your movie characters will not be there.
What issues is in that trade? Because I think I have that cover.
Let's see here. So this takes us back to the Suicide Squad 2001 series, issues 1 through 12. So this is the aftermath of Worlds at War. So Sergeant Rock is going to be their lead. So he winds up getting a team of Deadshot, Killer Frost, Major Disaster, Reactron, and Black Star to come along and help save the planet as we know it.
Yeah, this is the run that I found out about the Suicide Squad. I started collecting the Suicide Squad with Sergeant Rock as their leader instead of Amanda Waller. And at the end of it, and we've talked about this a few times, like when they had to the volume was being canceled. Sergeant Rock pulls off a mask and walks away from the wheelchair that he's in, and they never revealed who it was that was supposed to be in the mask. So I always wondered who that was. I should actually see if I can talk to Keith Giffen.
There you go, because that's a heck of a cliffhanger to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like a very Kevin Smith issue. All right, well, let's see. Let's move on over to Wednesday, where the House of Ideas will be dropping all their brand new product on us. So this Wednesday, you can get forward to Beta Ray Bill issue 4. So I've been hearing great stuff there, and definitely, which is fantastic, because I'm pretty sure he's going to be showing up in the MCU pretty soon here. If you like the word infinite or infinity, then get ready, because Black Cat annual number 1. Interesting. Both the cat personaed ladies are having annuals this week.
Look
I love
at
that. But Black Cat Annual 1 will be out, which starts the Infinite Destinies. Actually, it doesn't start it. I think this might even be the tail end of it, but it's going to be a tie-in for sure. So if you want to see what's happening with the Infinity Stones and the people, then definitely check that out. Quite a few variant covers to choose from, 4 of them at least. Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade number 4 will be out, so we know the Black Knight is coming in Eternals, so get ready to see the new history, legacy, and stylings of the Black Knight. Since we are talking Black Widow, perfect, because Black Widow issue 8 will be out, and this is written by Kelly Thompson, and she has been doing a wonderful job, so I would highly recommend jump on this series, because there's been nothing but great things featured. Cable number 11 will be out this week as well. The final adventures of Wi-Fi are happening, so if you want to pick it up and see what's going to happen there, definitely check it out. This is a book that I want to share a little bit of moment with. Daredevil issue 31 will be out this week, so Marvel has specifically asked for this one to be released early for a review. So I was very happy to write that one up. I'll tell you now, there's not major spoilers in the book. It's definitely a lot of setup. The new characters of Butch and Mike Murdoch will be forming their coup against the Kingpin, but it's not Wilson Fisk. A certain character has escaped their asylum bit, and then, of course, we continue the adventures of Matt Murdock in prison with his Daredevil jumpsuit and Elektra as the Daredevil of Hell's Kitchen. But I just love this cover by Marco Cicchetero. We basically see the Angel of Death walking away from a pool of blood, holding the 2 masks with blood dripping down them. This is Lockdown Part 1. I think it's only going to be a 2-issue arc, so I would definitely say pick this up, because I have a strong feeling issue 32 is going to be like a sigh through the heart, so to say. So, yeah, some major stuff there. And again, I enjoy the issue, but I know I have quite a bias, but I don't think you're going to be missing out if you buy some Daredevil. Let's see, moving along, Eternals issue 5 will be out, continuing the new stylings of the Eternals, getting you ready for the upcoming movie. Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man Chameleon Conspiracy number 1 will be out. So Nick Spencer is coming to an end on his Spider-Man run, which actually... I don't know if you saw some of that on Twitter, Mitch. Did you see any of the upcoming teasers for the post-Spencer era of Spider-Man?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're fine with it, I'll do a quick blurb. So basically, Nick Spencer will be ending his run on Amazing Spider-Man issue 74, which will have the legacy number of 875, I believe. Then the next issue, which will be Amazing Spider-Man number 75 for this volume, will start the the Beyond era, or as I like to call it, the Ben New Day. Ben Reilly is coming back to Spider-Man.
I did hear about that.
And not just the series. Yeah, so he's going to be, well, at least from the teasers that we're seeing. So we've seen one of a very beat up, bloodied Peter Parker on the ground with Mary Jane kissing him. Kind of mimicking their spider kiss. Now, of course, there is a gold band on the ring finger, but it's on the right hand. So maybe that's an engagement ring. I don't know. So a lot has been teased there. Will there be a wedding? Will there be an engagement? Will there be a death? But there for sure is a return, because we've seen an unmasked Ben Reilly, and we've seen a a new spider suit that very much looks like the Ben Reilly suit, but instead of the spider being centered, it looks like it's more shifted over to the heart. So that'll be interesting. And I was even doing a little bit of research, and this Beyond Corporation has made appearances in comics, and they actually have kind of dealt with Spider-Man, but their thing is they're all about warping reality. So this could be interesting to see. And I saw that they are going to be putting Amazing Spider-Man back to a publication of 3 times a month. So I think we are going to be getting ready to live up to Amazing Spider-Man 1000 pretty soon here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff there. Let's see. Moving along. In case you missed out, Marvel Voices Pride, they will be late shipping the America Chavez cover. So if you wanted to add that to your collection, that is there too. Shang-Chi #2 will be out, and we'll be having him go up against Captain America. So that'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see what's going to be happening over there in his book. Then we have quite a few Star... Oh.
Now, I know that Stan Lee himself has said, who's going to win in a fight? It's whoever the writer decides. Like, it's always going to be... there's no set precedent. But is there a better fighter than the Master of Martial Arts in the MCU? In your opinion?
In my opinion, okay, well, that's tough because honestly, like, so I guess the trick is, and I don't know much about Chi. I don't know if he, like, would he kill? That's a big question.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the character either. I would say no, because we like to keep our heroes that way.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, and this is going to be a twist, but I'm thinking if we're just keeping it like street level heroes, no, like obviously Thor could beat because he's a god of thunder and all these fun things. But if we're keeping it street level, honestly, I go Elektra, and the only reason is Elektra will kill.
Okay,
so
interesting.
She's not going to be the one who's like, because like yes, we always see her go up against Matt, and Matt usually walks away, but that's because they're not going to kill Matt in his own book. But I mean, if we're talking, real feats here, yeah, I'm thinking Elektra is going to be able to be like, hey, you want to pull that punch? That's your problem, not mine.
Fair.
But yeah, but no, it will be interesting because, as you said, and you're right, it always comes down to the writer. So Gene Luen Yang is going to have quite a problem here because I know he likes both characters. So it's going to be very interesting to see, like, here's 2 of your favorites, and what are you going to do? Who do you pick? But I am very happy to see Dyke Ruan make it to the big leagues. I was following him on Facebook. He does beautiful art, and now he's an artist for Marvel Comics. So it's so cool to see him go from that level of fandom to now actual employment. So that's pretty cool there. Let's see. Then we will still be having the Marvels. So if you want to get some flashback tales, definitely check this book out. The cover has me intrigued because I'm not necessarily worried about the center action. I'm more looking at the side action where we see what looks to be, I'm thinking, I want to say it's Captain America, but that star's a little too red. So I'm thinking it might be Red Guardian. Ooh. But on the flip side there, we have Bucky, the Winter Soldier. So I will be very curious to see what they're going to be doing there. That would be kind of a cool moment to have Red Guardian and Winter Soldier team up. Kind of a play on Bucky and Cap.
I mean, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't do something like that. It makes the most sense. They're both Russian agents.
Yeah, so I think that just made it to my quick read list. Let's see. The United States of Captain America #1 will be out. This is in celebration of Captain America's 80th anniversary, but it is coming late. Yes, we know the math on that one. But anyways, they're going to be doing some travels across America where we meet new people. So, and as I mentioned last week, Aaron Fisher, the Captain America of the Railways, made an appearance in the Pride book. But will that be constituted as his first appearance, or will it be United States of Captain America #1, which should have been his actual first appearance? So it's going to be a tough one, but definitely go out there. There's quite a few variants. So if you're looking for that first appearance of a brand new character, that's always a good way to hunt for them. X Factor X Factor #10 will be out. This is definitely part of the Hellfire Gala. So if you want to get some of those adventures continuing on, check that out. And now for the collected editions, we have Avengers by Jason Aaron, Volume 8, Enter the Phoenix. So this is the last big story before the Heroes Reborn arc. So here the big spoiler is Echo becomes the new host for the Phoenix. So it'll be very interesting to see how she uses her abilities in the next arc and beyond. King and Black will be collected in trade paperback. So the god of the symbiotes, Null, has come to the Marvel Universe, planet Earth, as we know it, and attacked. It's actually a fun story. If you have, your own son, I think this is going to hit you in the feels a little bit harder as we see Eddie and his son try to survive and deal with what they've got. So pretty wild stuff there. If you are enjoying MODOK over on Hulu, then definitely pick up the MODOK Head Games, as Jordan Bloom will be writing some comic book adventures there. So if you want to get even more MODOKness in your life, that's the way to go. The Age of Apocalypse will be having a companion omnibus, so if you want to get even more of the crossover issues, that will be out there as well. That was something. Was that a comic? Did you make it in time for that one, Mitch? Like when you were starting off as a fan, did you do anything with the Age of Apocalypse, or was that kind of something that came to you well after the fact?
Well after the fact, yeah. I might have been reading comics at that point, but I was not collecting X-Men comics, so I did not read that when it came out.
Yeah, I think that I do remember I was excited. I got the collector's preview because that I could afford. So my only introduction was an interview book. But yeah, folks, that's your spinner rack. So shop wisely.
All right, that's a big spinner rack. Then let's break down the trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The big one. Come on, the Abomination is coming back? Can you believe that?
Yeah, that is like, we've wanted it to happen. He's a good villain. What does that mean for? Is it Tim or Eli Roth? I forget which one.
Tim. Tim Roth.
So is Tim coming back to the MCU? That could be very interesting. What's going to be the future of that character? And obviously, that's recognition to the Incredible Hulk film, which kind of feels like the forgotten film of the MCU, but it's not so forgotten now.
Very true. Plus, they're kind of going more with a comic book accurate look of the character, with the whole fins on the side of his head and the spikes down his back. Like, I don't remember if he had spikes down his back in the Incredible Hulk or not, but I know they were doing a lot more of the bone intrusions instead of fish-like look. Or amphibian-like look.
Yeah, no, definitely so. And, honestly, I didn't catch that until you start bringing it up. And, wow, I'm that much happier for it. So thank you for pointing that out.
And it looks like he is involved in some type of MCU fight club or fight ring or underground fight scene. And he's fighting against maybe Wong from the Doctor Strange movies.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's what everybody keeps going towards. I gotta be a naysayer, I guess. I don't think it's Wong because, the guy's like, unless this is how he earns his money for sandwiches, he seemed very peaceful. Like he does not seem like a guy who's actively seeking conflict. So I don't know. Maybe there's a side to Wong we don't know about. But
this is true. I would say that at some point during the blip, maybe things changed for him. Like, Doctor Strange left. There was no stones for him to guard anymore. So who knows what was changed for him in that time.
Now that's an interesting question. And honestly, now that makes me think about something. Will it take place post Endgame, or we start seeing heroes rise in that 5-year absence? Could he be one of the heroes? That's
a good question. That's a very good question. I'm excited to see this movie when it finally comes out in September, I believe. We saw more of young Shang-Chi being trained by his father and his father's disciples. Somewhat of looks like a very similar scene to what we see in Black Widow trailers for the Red Room, where he's in a classroom like setting with a bunch of other people being trained. Definitely the Death Dealer. I don't know much about this character in the comic books, but looks like a deadly foe, if to say the least. So there's going to be a lot of that character showing up. They don't shy away from using tech. The father, has given Shang-Chi his 10 years to live out his life, and maybe he hasn't spent it the way that he thought he should. Also, I thought was very interesting is there's one part where Shang-Chi and his friends are standing there, with Razor Fist, who we see earlier him fighting with on the bus. So what does that mean? They're not in a fighting stance? They're like people are bowing to him. So I don't know if that Razor Fist has brought Shang-Chi back to his father's temple, and this is everybody just paying respects, or what?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they go from one end of the fight mode to now something different, or could it be ruse? That'll be very interesting to see how that plays out.
The 10 Rings. So the 10 Rings has a very interesting history at this point now. We know the 10 Rings from the comic books and early 90s Iron Man cartoons of how it's the Mandarin wears the rings on his fingers, and each one does a different thing for him in controlling matter or time or whatever, right? It's a very mystical force, just like the Infinity Stones. This time around, it's more like the rings that a person wears around their wrist and forearm in a very particular type of wushu martial arts, I believe, that allows them to either use them as defensive weapons or offensive weapons. We also see that it's going to be used in a mystical way where it floats off of their hands in the preview, in the trailer. When we are first introduced to the 10 Rings in the MCU, it's more of just a symbol. It's supposed to be 10 different tribes of people that came together to overthrow or rule a certain area, as we saw in Iron Man 1. So what do you think of this new change and blending the two things together?
It's an interesting zig or zag. I like it. I definitely, growing up, I was like, okay, yeah, the Mandarin. And I always remember that part of the cartoon, like season 1, he's got his rings and he attacks Iron Man, and then the explosion happens. And that was the fun of season 2, was seeing the Mandarin on the quest to gather the rings. So I like the character's journey, but I also understand in modern audiences, that some people are not, that the character is not very culturally sensitive. So when they teased it in Iron Man, I was excited, but then it never kind of came to fruition. Here, I think I like this more because I think it can still keep story, but also add to it. And that's what I love. Like when you can take something that exists and add to it, I think that's great. So it'll be very interesting to see how these 10 rings will be incorporated into Shang-Chi's story, maybe even his history. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about the character's story and history. I've only read him in a couple of guest appearances, but it'll be very interesting to see, okay, is he are we going to stay true to comics, or are we going to do kind of like an Eternals thing where it's like, hey, here's a clean slate sort of, so let's put in there and see what we can get. But it'll be interesting. I mean, the second trailer definitely hyped up my appetite for it.
Same. I also feel like it might have gave away a little bit too much, and I feel like they have to do that because too many people don't know what Shang-Chi is about. So you have to entice them. I think the last No, go ahead.
This is going to be a hard sell phase because we're bringing in, or Marvel's bringing in, new concepts. And even for fans like us, I'd say we're definitely, strong, well-versed fans. And, Shang and the Eternals are very new,
Yes.
So it's going to be, we're obviously going to go into it because of the greater Marvel story and also our love for cinema. But some people, might just be like, hey, maybe this is like how we as fans have said that, like, oh, they're changing the writer and artist, maybe it's time to leave the book, so maybe they don't want to bring that style of thinking to the movies now.
I think the last big reveal, for those who don't know about the toys, we saw the Great Protector, which Chris and I are maybe coming to the conclusion that it is a new name for an old Marvel villain, Fin Fang Foom, the alien dragon, because as Marvel has declared, all dragons are from an alien planet, just like Lockheed, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So what do you think of the introduction of Fin Fang Foom, or the Great Protector, into this movie?
It's wild because even like I've known about Fin Fang Foom for a long time. He's an Atlas era character, and I've never really had a place for him. I'm just kind of like, this is ridiculous. Like if I want Godzilla, I'm going to go to Godzilla. I don't need the Kmart knockoff, but there is something to it. I mean, Groot is an Atlas era character. He predates the Fantastic Four. And look how popular Groot became. Those 3 words stole our heart. So yeah, all right, Fin Fang Foom, it can be culturally insensitive, so the Great Protector, could be the way to go. Will it be the character? I mean, I guess at this point, I'm just like, hey, if you're going to open up the catalog and give me wild stuff, sure, let's do it. I want to see it. So we see him underwater in that bit. I can't wait to see what happens when we get out of the water. And I'm just looking forward to seeing this massive dragon stand before characters. So that's going to be something.
Let me ask you this. Is the dragon that Iron Fist has to punch the heart out of, is that also an alien, or is that something else?
Ooh, that's tough because, I think the memo is, but I don't think everybody follows the memo of like, oh, okay, dragons are actually secretly aliens, because I think they still want to hold to the idea that while you do have science fiction and you do have mysticism, we want them to intersect but not be wholly wrapped. So I think in the movies, it makes sense to have mysticism fall in line with the science fiction, but I think in the comics they still want to keep it like not so much. But Avengers versus X-Men kind of did lead us to the idea that, oh well, the Phoenix, which comes from space, mixed in with the Iron Fist dragon lore, so therefore the dragon must also come from space. It kind of goes back to steal your line from earlier. It's really up to the writer's choice, like if they want to win that battle or not. So if you have 8 issues, then yes, it's from space. If you have 6 or less, no, it's from Earth.
Okay, I'm in. That's all I have to say. All right, Chris. Let's talk about Natasha Romanoff, or Natasha Romanova. When is her first appearance?
All right, so the Great Black Widow comes to us in Tales of Suspense issue 52, harking all the way back from January of 1964.
Creator?
She is created by the group of Stan Lee, Don Rico, and Don Heck.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Don Rico and Don Heck.
Ooh, well, I know I've heard Don Heck's name. I believe he is a artist of Marvel Comics, definitely part of the Atlas era and Marvel eras of comic books. Let's see here if I can try to pull up some of his big work. Let's see. He actually, okay, so he did some Golden Age work. He did some stuff for Quality Comics, which would later fold on into DC Comics. He did some work for Toby Press, which would then be folded into Charlton, which would also still be folded into DC Comics as well. He did some work on comic book titles of the 50s era: Danger, Death Valley, Horrific, War Fury, and Weird Terror. He also has some kind of tie into TV stuff. He would do some work on Captain Gallant of the Foreign Legion, which was based on the NBC TV program with starring Buster Crabbe. Let's see. He winds up teaming up with Stan Lee to work on Journey into Mystery, Strange Tales, Tales to Suspense, and Tales to Astonish. Again, part of the big Atlas era. When things finally are solidified into Marvel Comics, he is going to be known as Dandy Don because Stan loved to give everybody nicknames. So he would basically do a lot of work on Thor and Giant Man. He was part of the team that helped create Iron Man. Again, his work on Tales of Suspense, so definitely that puts him there as well. So he got to put some ideas into that. And then he just basically kind of just does some housework in between comics. So Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, he's popped up in those issues, done some work there. About 79 now, he is more exclusively for DC Comics. And that's about it. So you can see his work on Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man issues 57 through 66. He's done some work on the Avengers, some Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel would definitely take us there. Champions #1, which will actually be very important later in this segment. Some work on Daredevil, a couple of issues of Ghost Rider, and then he got brought back in for some giant size stories that took place in the Marvel Comics.
So in your best
big tour of work there.
Oh, and then Don Rico, who went by a few different names, Dan Rico, Donella St. Michael's, Donna Richards. I don't know why he went. Okay. Joseph Milton and Korok also worked on a few things. It looks like worked over at Atlas Comics, which is Marvel Comics. Jungle Action #2. I don't know what that is. Tales of Suspense, and died in 2007. Inkpot Award in 1976 at Comic-Con International. And I want you to, in your best Stan Lee impression, because we love your Stan Lee impression here, go and talk to the two Dons and ask them to create a new character by the name of Black Widow.
Oh my gosh. Let me see if I can channel my inner Stan here. I can just see him walking into a room, and just so happens that's all right. Don, here's what I need from you. We need a beautiful, lustful female, femme fatale, and to keep it all consistent and straight, she has to have red hair, but not quite yet, folks. Okay, I've started to like some of this fishnet stuff. I want some of that to happen. So we're in a Cold War here, boys. So I need you to do something. All right. So just give me your best Russian agent that's going to come over and try to seduce our Playboy Iron Man. That's what's going to happen. And then as he walks out of the room, the two Dons look at each other and say, was he talking to you or me?
That's exactly how I saw it happening too. It's like, he doesn't know that we're both named Don, does he? And the two of them ended up just having to work together and creating Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. So tell me about Tales of Suspense. This is issue 52 when they create Black Widow. What did we get in the first 51 issues?
So a vast majority of it was just monsters and crazy science fiction stuff. The book doesn't really take off until issue 39 when we get the first appearance of Iron Man. So the book back then, I don't know if you remember this TV show growing up, and I just lost the title, but it was kind of like a Twilight Zone
The Outer
type
Limits?
of anthology series, Weird Adventures or something like that. I just remember Christopher Lloyd played a professor in one, and they were either just amazing. Oh, Amazing Stories.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah, so there's a TV show, Amazing Stories, and that was the big thing at the time because a lot of the comic book companies knew nobody's collecting. You know, people are just going to come in and read something and grab it. And the mail would come in typically later. So the formula DC was doing was they would put it out there, and then when they would get the mail back about 6 months later, then they'd try like 2 or 3 more appearances and see what would happen. And then if the mail came in strong enough, then we would give the feature its own story. By the time they got to Green Lantern, they decided to say, let's just do the 3 issues and see what happens. It's not going to hurt us. So Marvel kind of took that idea as well. And so that's why if we look at the greats as they appear, Fantastic Four appear in their own book, and it just, home run, first try, not bad. But a lot of the other characters, Hulk gets his own book, but Iron Man appears in Tales of Suspense, Thor appears in Journey into Mystery, Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy, and that was just kind of a throwaway appearance, like, oh, it's not going to happen, I want to do it, so I'm doing it. So the Tales of Suspense, that's going to be your spy book, basically. The others would be, weird phenomena from space or Earth itself, but Tales of Suspense, yep, that's your Cold War book, hence why Tony Stark is a munitions manufacturer for America, and, most of his villains are, Cold War thugs or, people who are trying to sabotage the American war machine.
And very much the Russians and the Red Scare that we had going on. So some of the notable abilities that Natasha has: expert spy, tactician, hand-to-hand combat, slow aging, and enhanced immune system. Now, is that part of that, what is it called, the Infinity Formula? Is that why she has that longevity?
So they attribute that, so when she, not necessarily her first appearance, but later on as the character starts growing and gaining a background, they come up with their own Russian super soldier serum. And so when they're practicing, then they're experimenting on people in the Red Room, that's how Natasha winds up getting her abilities. So I forget exactly what it's called, but that serum is basically what gives her enhanced performance, physical strength, and then the other biological modifications to her as well. So Infinity Formula, I don't believe she's ever taken that one.
Okay. Expert marksman and mastery of various weapons, skilled hypnotist, which I didn't know about that one, but makes a lot of sense for a femme fatale. And equipment via gauntlets, so grappling hook, knockout gas, taser, explosive, tear gas pellets, and radio transmitter, which we have seen a lot of those in the MCU version with the whole shooting out of her gauntlets, which I always wondered, would your hands get in the way since your wrist is smaller than your palm?
Well, if the artist draws it right, sometimes the gauntlets are a little bit wider, so I feel like they kind of expand that width, but I would love to see them purposely do something like probably the top part of the gauntlet is what should be firing. So if she wants to use that weapon, she should have to adjust the gauntlet to get that part top, so that way she could drop her hand below and not exactly accidentally tase her thumb and be like, well, there goes that situation.
Before we started recording, you asked me where was the first that I remember reading Natasha Romanoff as a character, and unfortunately, my first exposure to her is in the Ultimate Universe. Looking here on Wikipedia, it says that her first debut in the Ultimate Universe was Ultimate Team Up number 15? Which one was it? Was it 14?
Oh gosh, yeah, it was. Well, so the Ultimate Team Up book was an interesting. Flub, I think, is a good word for it, for the Ultimate Marvel Universe, because the Ultimates hadn't been created yet, and that changed a lot of the origins for characters as we knew them.
No, that's completely true. Like I think you have Spider-Man teaming up with Iron Man at one point in that book, and then later on they have Ultimate Iron Man, and they change up his origin from the one that they just gave us, and then Ultimates has yet a different story for Iron Man, if I remember correctly. And then I think that's where you got a lot of the different, the Ultimate Team Up was where they were like, hey, let's see what people think of these characters and if they want to see them in the Ultimate Universe. And then they changed them up when they finally got to it, because it wasn't too much later when we got the Ultimates where we get Natasha in that, and she's a little bit different there too, if I remember correctly.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the Ultimate Team Up was like, hey, we want to see they had a great successful crossover with Ultimate X-Men and Spider-Man. So it was like, all right, let's play with some of the other ones. Some of them did work out, Ultimate Fantastic Four, but they had a book early on. But yeah, if you look at it, because I always remember that in the Ultimate Marvel team up, when he teams up with Iron Man, it's like, oh yeah, Tom Cruise just played me in the movie, and it's like, ooh, that's gonna be that's gonna be something. Origins were drastically changed, and even then they were rechanged because, like you said, we see him in Ultimate Marvel team up. This is for Iron Man. We see him there, he's different. He pops up in the Ultimates, he's different. And then even when they finally did his origin story, I remember they got a famous writer to come over from the science fiction books and write that one. And it was so weird because what was it? It was like Tony as a child had to be painted blue all the time. I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's good that I don't remember.
So then where was your first introduction to Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow?
So the first time I meet her is Daredevil #2. Not that long ago, but yes, it was a while back. So I had a fondness for Daredevil as a kid growing up. I always have a strong memory of reading Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, his origin retelling by Miller and Romita Jr., and I remember reading that at Fry's back when grocery stores sold comics. So Daredevil was a character that just kind of stuck with me. I remember when we were getting ready for the big Marvel Nights to happen, and obviously being limited with what comics I could get and stuff like that, I decided to go with Daredevil, not try out, to go with it. And this was luckily when Smith, Quesada, and Palmiotti were revamping the book. And I always credit Daredevil Marvel Knights #1 as the book that saved Marvel. But anyways, in this story, everybody in Matt's life kind of comes back just because it's fun to bring characters back. And issue 2, we get Natasha coming in as a supporting character. And I was like, oh, okay. I could definitely sense there was some friction and tension between these two characters. I thought she was very interesting, but I didn't know much about her. I had seen her in backgrounds of old issues of Avengers. I'm more familiar with her gray short hair look, or gray costume short hair look, but this was the first time I actually got to see her be a full-on character, have her own thoughts and do worthwhile stuff. So it was very exciting, and I was like, okay, this is interesting to see. Plus, redheads always catch my eye, so that was a huge helping as well.
I feel like
there's that mesmerization again.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's the same for a lot of your editor-in-chiefs over at Marvel.
Yep, exactly.
So after,
there's only one color, fans.
It's red. So after 1964, where do we see Black Widow again?
All right, so she does have her big debut in Tales of Suspense. We see her play out a lot in these stories. Her first story, actually, she is sent by Russia to go retrieve the Crimson Dynamo, and his secret identity is Professor Ivan Vanko, which is interesting because that kind of ties in a little bit to Iron Man 2. But anyways, so she goes to retrieve him. They do manage to steal the armor, but Vanko has deflected from the Russians and willingly sacrifices himself and the Crimson Dynamo to die. So that's how we lose that character very on. She pops up in issues 52, 53, 57. Issue 57 is a big one. So her third appearance, and this is where we get the first appearance of Hawkeye. So she actually saves Hawkeye because in Hawkeye's first outing as a hero, people confuse him for the villain. So she helps him escape. So then Hawkeye quickly falls in love with her. Unfortunately, there's a moment where they're fighting Iron Man, an explosion happens, and Hawkeye thinks Black Widow dies. So he's just so heartbroken, and he doesn't know what to do. We finally get Black Widow back in issue 60, and this is where she starts wearing the costume. Prior to that, she was just running around in a dress with a mink. Now we're starting to get a little bit more of the very much a Black Canary kind of rip-off costume. We're getting the fishnets, a pointed mask, and things like that. Finally, she will decide to become a hero And we see that big turn in Tales of Suspense 64. So now that she's starting to become a hero, they do put her away for a while. So that's 1965. So it's about a year later where we see her pop up in the Avengers. She does a pretty good run in that set of comics. A lot of big moments that we see. Obviously, one that you're going to want to read, fans, if you get a chance, is Avengers 43, where we see the Red Guardian appear. So that's going to start dovetailing back into Natasha's origins to establish more of her as a character. But for the most part, she's going to be bopped around in the background. A significant appearance will be July of 1970, Amazing Spider-Man issue 86. Now, if you have a chance, I would recommend going on the secondary market and trying to buy this issue, because this is the one that's really setting up the Black Widow as we know her, with the gauntlets, the black costume, the red hair, things like that. All the makings of the character that we're starting to see starts happening right there. Stan Lee is actually the writer of that one, so him and John Romita Sr. Craft the Black Widow as we know her. She does so well that she moves over to being one of the features in the Amazing Adventures book. Her next big significant moment will be November of 71 when she goes over to the Daredevil books. So she joins Daredevil in issue 81 and starts being a significant character there. And I'm trying to see if I can remember which issue it becomes Daredevil and Black Widow. And I believe it looks like it's Daredevil issue 92, where she actually does get mentioned in the title. So now it'll be Daredevil and Black Widow. Those two strike up a romance. They're a heroic couple. Things are going great. And I love this. So at this point, she has romanced Hawkeye, and now she's romanced Daredevil. But we never see any of that in the MCU. Like it definitely feels like they play her up towards, kind of carrying a torch for Cap. Like that was the way to go.
No, it's the Hulk. She goes for the Hulk in the MCU.
Oh, that's true. I totally forgot about that. What was it? The sun sets and you'll relax or something.
But I mean, obviously in the MCU, even when it's in was it Age of Ultron, Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, Mark Ruffalo's Banner, that's the name. Banner is talking to Steve Rogers, and he's like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like kind of thing." So there's obvious, talks of or allusions to the fact that Steve and Natasha were romantically involved at least in some capacity. And then you have the years when the two of them are on the run after Civil War. Like, come on, they were finding solace in each other's arms, so to speak.
They're having their own giant-sized team up.
Which is interesting to bring up in the Marvel Comics. Natasha is definitely linked to a lot of the different heroes and maybe even villains in romantic ways, just like Captain America is linked to. Captain America and Hawkeye are both linked to a lot of the different heroes and villains in the Marvel comic book universe, so to speak.
Yeah, no, they definitely get those connections, and it's funny because I think it's kind of like the Nightwing phenomenon. It's that street level hero is the perfect hero that can meet up with gods and spacemen and magnificent, marvelous beings, and so they're the ones that are the perfect connections because they can go from Rick Jones and they can go all the way up to the mighty Thor. They're the ones that can have those intersecting relationships with other characters.
And then they also imply in, so what is that one book where it's the return of Natasha from death in the Marvel Comics, where it's Hawkeye and Winter Soldier together. The fact that the two of them were, Winter Soldier and Natasha were together.
Yes, so I believe that was Tales of Suspense, which obviously was a big throwback to that bit, to the famous title of hers. So yes, Natasha dies in the
Secret
Empire book. Yep. So when Stevel rises to power, he accidentally kills her. So at this point, both Martin Soldier and Clint Martin Hawkeye are starting to notice crimes that are happening, and they're like, "Hey, this fits Natasha's MO." but it can't be Natasha because she's dead. So, of course, they want to investigate because they don't want Natasha's legacy to be tarnished. So that puts them in the big buddy cop situation. And it's even more hilarious due to the fact that they're both prior lovers of hers. So, of course, there's that little bit of competition where it's like, well, if Natasha was going to choose one of us, she'd clearly choose me, as they're both saying it. But in that story, there's an even more weird twist in the fact that we find out that there's a bunch of Natasha clones. Like, they're just waiting for her to die and then reactivate her.
Natasha and Yelena and another Black Widow that I don't remember the name of.
Yeah, so that was a weird one. I mean, obviously, I remember picking that book up just because I wanted to. It had Winter Soldier, so I was like, okay, let's do this. But yeah, what was it? Tales of Suspense 100 through 105, I believe. And so, yeah, we find out all about these clones. Ursa Major helps her out. And, it was funny because, and I remember the big conclusion of that story, she leaves the 2 letters, one for Hawkeye and one for the Winter Soldier. And basically for the Hawkeye letter, she's like, well, if you love me, leave me alone. And then for the Winter Soldier, she's like, hey, I'm going to go bash some of the Russians. You want to come with? So they team up. And I don't know where that necessarily got followed up. I would probably say you're definitely going to want to be checking out one of her series. I'm trying to see because, unfortunately, Natasha's had a lot of series, like volumes of her book. So let's see. It looks like, okay, we're actually going to want to jump up to Web of Black Widow, which is a 5-issue miniseries. And that's going to be dealing with the whole Natasha clone saga and her memories. So that's going to help us try to figure out what's going on there. I'm very curious. Why spiders and clones?
I think Marvel just decided they had a thing there, and they're like, we're gonna corner that market. It doesn't matter that people think of it as a giant flub that happened in the 90s. We're gonna just keep doing it because we got Miles clones too now.
Miles is going through his own. So, gosh, I mean, if it was a sheep character, that would make sense. But I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, so that's going to be part of it. I want to say even Mark Waid and Chris Samney, they did a volume of Black Widow that is worth your time, but I don't know what volume it is. So I'll have you share something about Black Widow while I do a little bit of research here then.
So what I don't have much in the way of history of Black Widow, and I think it is very interesting that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the character obviously became more forefront in Marvel Comics once again, at least to a regular standpoint, after her appearance in Avengers the movie 2012. Yeah, 2012. I feel like she's involved a lot more. Like eventually, when you get to the point where she is training the champions in a Red Room like area or Red Room like scenario, and that's during the Secret Empire, and that's when she gets killed and sets forth the other champions to realize that this is a serious thing. I find it interesting that this is a character that they've really latched onto with the past that she's had, which Marvel does the best at, right? Like making it so that a character that is villainous or at points villainous in their past becoming a hero happens often. So Natasha is definitely a major SHIELD agent now.
Yeah, no, you're right in that regard. They did a good job she didn't have a very cohesive past, but I think that blank slate helps to kind of fill in the gaps, and Marvel's been great at that. Yeah, taking the villain and then having them rise up to being a hero, which is very much the case of the Black Widow. Here we go. So I got lucky. It would be the 2016 7th series of Black Widow. And this is by Chris Samney and Mark Waid. And that definitely plays with, who is the Black Widow? Shield's most wanted, and as you just mentioned, she's a big Shield agent, so it's like, wait a second, what? How is this going to work out? But this one definitely plays towards her origins, the Red Room, and then also with her modern dilemma of the clones. How does that all connect back to Natasha? And then it nicely ends with a reunion of her and Bucky Barnes, because actually that's something I forgot. When Bucky got his own series, so he grew to fame in the comics first before the movies. When they did his big run in the Captain America volume 5, then he graduated towards his own death, and then that led to him getting his own comic book series, and that was by Ed Brubaker. So the Winter Soldier Volume 1 by Ed Brubaker. There's an arc in there where Black Widow gets kidnapped by one of the other potential Winter Soldiers, and he's basically going to take her away from Bucky by brainwashing her. And of course it comes down to, well, the only way you can save her is by allowing her to live, but she has to forget you. So Bucky realizes that he'd rather her be alive than not have her at all. So they save her, but she is not aware of the Winter Soldier past of her life, which again is newer stuff, post 2000s retconning into her past. But that gets wrapped up there. So definitely pick up Volume 7. This was an interesting find, and I almost forgot about this. And this could be a hot story to pick up. Black Widow issues 19 and 20 of Volume 6. So this is something that I like that we don't often get to see. The end of a character. So this was part of the Secret Wars Last Days. So if you want to read the quote-unquote last days of the Black Widow, those 2 issues would be interesting to pick up, just to see how does Natasha deal with all that red in her ledger. How does she, decide what cases she wants to wrap up and what she feels needs to get done before it's the end. So that's definitely a fun one to pick up.
I also wanted to bring up the fact that, in, I guess, the earlier history of her character, they had her and Alexei Shostakov is who the Red Guardian is, were a married couple. And in the movie that's going to be coming out, we know David Harbour is playing that character as a somewhat adopted father for her, which is not the first time that they've made that kind of change in comic book movies. And most recently, we saw in Aquaman, Mira, her father in that movie is, in the comic books, her husband.
Wait, Mira...
From Aquaman?
She has a husband in the movie?
No, she has a husband in the comic books before Arthur. The one that she's like betrothed to or something like that. It's the same character as her father in the movie.
Oh, no kidding. I missed that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was it? What's the famous one? The Jean Grey, Professor X?
So I thought that was an interesting change that they're going to be making for the movie, which I believe... What's her name? Rachel Weisz in that movie is also playing someone by the name of... Is she the Iron Maiden?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because she's a big actress. She's a big name. And so I'm very curious. She's going to be in this Marvel film, but we have yet to be told who she is. So that's going to be quite a character revelation, I feel.
How many volumes of a Black Widow book have there been, do you know?
So, and this is tough because if we just go with it being the title Black Widow, then we are at 9 series.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's there's going to be some Marvel math for you. The first one comes at us back in 1999. That's when she got her first series. But again, that falls under the Marvel Knights, which is also a very strongly recommended series. But we do get other books of hers, our Black Widow, Deadly Origin, Forever Red, the web of Black Widow, Widow's sting, and things like that. So even though we have all those volumes, there's also a lot of crossover to other titled books. So if you are very interested, I would recommend this website. It's called the Complete Marvel Reading Order. And in it, you can look up characters. And this site is so well maintained that you could actually see Black Widow, all of her adventures, all 1,052 of her appearances in actual release order. So if you're curious, like, hey, I want to read Black Widow from day one, or I want to read about her from when I was born, you can definitely set the list to that order to check it out. A list I would like to share with you. This one comes from goodcomicstoread.com, and they've given us a nice list of stories to read before the movie comes out. So I guess I'm going to bounce some of these off of you, Mitch, and see if you read them, if there's any connections. So obviously the first book you should read is Tales of Suspense, issue 52, her first appearance. I read that just the other night. It very much reads like a Silver Age Cold War book. Have you dabbled your toe in that pool yet, Mitch, or no?
I have not, but I did like the fact that you brought this up earlier, that the book involves the Crimson Dynamo, Professor Vanko, who they kind of changed into for, what was it, Whiplash and Crimson Dynamo combined for Iron Man 2, which is where we get our introduction to Natalie Rushman or Natasha Romanoff in the MCU.
Yeah, and that is a nice little bit of dovetailed history. Don't forget Bird. Where is Bird?
Where is Bird?
That classic moment. Why must you have person? Be puppet. Let's see. So that's a fun one. So there you go, Mitch. You've got some homework, and same for you fans. You should definitely check out her first appearance. It's actually pretty good. It does hold up nicely. Next up, they recommend reading Champions issues 1 through 17. And that's a very strong set of comics, because in there, she actually will be taking on quite a bit of a leadership role. She is being paired up with Iceman and Angel from the X-Men, Ghost Rider, and Hercules. And I didn't know this until recently, but there was also a little bit of a relationship there between her and Hercules. She definitely had something for him. I don't know if he definitely returned those feelings or not, but they definitely played up there.
Now, see, I did not know that. I did not know that Champions was a legacy book. Like, that was a title that they used before. I assumed with the new Champions book that they were just pulling that from Contest of Champions.
Oh yeah, no. Champions was its own thing in 1975. It was just basically Tony Isabella was doing great on Ghost Rider, and it was like, all right, let me see what else I can do, and formed his own team. And then the kids are the ones that continued on the title to make it a legacy.
What an interesting team too. Angel, Iceman, Black Widow, Ghost Rider, and Hercules. Like, okay, sure, right. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It's the missing pieces of Marvel. Like, okay, these guys aren't on teams yet. Let's do it. They definitely recommend reading Daredevil number 81. So that's what puts her into the world of Matthew Murdock and all his craziness. This one, I think actually once we're done, I'm going to go back and read it myself. Solo Adventures number 7, featuring Hawkeye and Black Widow. What's going to be exciting here is, how do these two feel about each other? Clint carried such a torch for Natasha, but unfortunately she did not return those feelings. She felt he was better off without her. So this is going to be one of those moments where I think Bob Layton and Tom DeFalco are going to team up to have it out with those two. So I would definitely say look that one up, or maybe even buy it before the price value goes up. This next one on their list is huge because of the cover. So it's Uncanny X-Men issue 268. Taking us all the way up to 1990. We get Black Widow, Captain America, and Wolverine teaming up for the first time again. Yes. I think this one was a big eye-opener for folks because, like, Captain America, we knew was a Golden Age character. Wolverine was not, and Natasha was not. but all three of these characters have lived in the 1940s. So it's very interesting to see, why did they team up, what happened, and then why don't they remember it? So that's definitely on that list of reads. Plus, it's wonderful Jim Lee art, so you can't go wrong there. And it's even Chris Claremont, so that's a winning formula. Next up, they'll give you Black Widow, Kiss or Kill. So this was a 2010 series. So now we're looking at a comic book that is post cinematic universe Black Widow. So in this one, a senator's son is murdered. So she's got to do her best to solve this international spy thriller and see what's going on. It definitely plays to the classicness of Black Widow and her strengths while being set in a, post writing style of the MCU.
And right before she's introduced in Iron Man 2.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's true. Iron Man 2 wasn't that long ago, yeah. This is a fun one. I remember reading this one. So Daredevil, The Widow. So this is Daredevil Volume 2, issues 61 through 66. This one was great because, it's interesting because Natasha comes back to Matt's life. And she basically starts seducing Matt. And of course, Matt's like, well, you're my former lover. I love you, but this doesn't feel right, and it's a tough one because could you imagine, one of your most passionate exes comes back to you and, hey, how's it going? That's a very everybody struggle. And so it was kind of interesting to see it. Of course, she's not back there for love. She's back there because she does need his help, and it takes them on quite the adventure. And it's beautiful Alex Mavely art. So definitely check that one out. That's a great one. Their number 4, and this is one that I plan on rereading pretty soon here, Black Widow Deadly Origin, 2009 to 2010. So again, right before her appearance in the movies. So these are the books where Marvel's basically going to say, okay, this character, they're in the hole, so we know they're coming up soon. Let's establish the origins now before the movies really cement everything. So I would say this definitely needs to be fast-tracked and read before her movie appearance. Was this one that you managed to read, Mitch?
I did not, but if you looking at that cover right there, she's wearing the white outfit that we see is featured in the movie trailer. And I think you're absolutely right. This is probably going to be where they're going to pull a good chunk of the movie from for her origin.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a good one. So go pick up those back issues before it's too late. This was one that caught our eye. So their number 3 pick, Black Widow Homecoming, all the way back from 2005. So this one has some Greg Land art. We get Richard K. Morgan as the writer here. We get to see what would be the big part of this one.
Yeah, what would be what's the homecoming? Is it her going back to Russia to take on the Red Room?
I think that's what it's definitely kind of implying. So let me see here. I'm going to cheat because I pulled up quite a few lists. That's the good news, fans. If you are very interested in trying to figure out what's going on or trying to find some stuff to read of Wanda, there are a lot of lists out there. Now, the tough part is navigating through a lot of the BS to see what's good. Here we go. All right. So in this, Natasha is seeking a peaceful, violent past as a deadly assassin. In Homecoming, Black Widow gets roped back into her role as an elite spy as she must track down a series of murderers. This all leads to Natasha back to Russia, where once again she must confront her home and her past as she tries to move on. Her new world collides with her past life in this thrilling story. So basically, the film does involve Natasha going back. So this might even be another story where they're going to pull back to this forgotten era of Natasha's life. And let's see, going back to the original list here. Then they have Black Widow, The Name of the Rose. So this one's definitely going to feature some Iron Man as he's thrown up there on the cover. It's written by Majori Liu. So this one If you're looking for a good espionage story, then this is definitely the way to do it. We've got Daniel Acuna working on the art, so that definitely sounds like a good win. So if you want to see more of Black Widow's undercoverness, that's definitely the way to go. And then this last one on their list is Black Widow, the Itsy Bitsy Spider, coming at us from 1999, Devin Grayson. And this was her Marvel Knights reintroduction, because sadly, Black Widow, during the Heroes Reborn era, the original one, she kind of got stuck on the 616 world, and she got stuck with the horrible task of disbanding what was left of the Avengers in order for them to help. So she didn't really have a place in things after that, and so luckily the Marvel Knights found a home for her and gave her story there.
All right. So there are a lot of good stories that you can go and read if you can get them in before the premiere of the movie July 9th. Please do. If not, return back here, because next week we are going to have a 101, or at least our attempt at a 101 for the Red Room, the place where you train all the Black Widows, because guess what? Natasha is not the only one.
Ooh, that's going to be fun to dive into.
If you have any opinions on Black Widow or any of the other things we talked about today, please check out or find me on Twitter. I'm at Mitchipedia GEM. GEM stands for Geek Elite Media. Chris, where can people find you online?
You can definitely find me on Twitter as well. My handle there is Stuff I Should Say, should being spelled SHUD. And then check out geekelitemedia.com and AIPTcomics.com for my writings.
The rest of Geek Elite Media is at Geek Elite Media on Twitter, at Geek Elite Media on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Geek Elite Media is our Facebook page. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on our website, geekelitemedia.com. If you're one of our patrons, you'll get a bonus episode of Reimagine If. It is where Chris and I will dive into episode 3 of Loki this week. So if you want, go to patreon.com/Geek Elite Media. And whatever podcatcher you use to listen to us, please rate and review us, because it helps spread the word of our network. But until next time, this is Imagine If on the Geek Elite Media Network, saying always remember to geek out.
Geek out.
This concludes our broadcast.